A federal court has tossed a suit against an Idaho ranch accused of destroying wetlands, and the court said the EPA failed to show the wetlands on the property ran to navigable water, citing the Supreme Court's ruling in the Sackett case. Our good friend Roger McEowen with the Washburn School of Law joins us now for some key takeaways on this. Roger, always a pleasure. Good morning to you. I figured we start with a quick recap of this case. What is this case looking like?
Yeah, good to be with you, Suzanne. Good to see that you guys in Nashville are doing okay with all the tragedy and the flooding that's near you. But speaking of water, we've got a couple of wetland developments here coming out of the Sackett decision that have been applied in a couple of different cases. In this first case out in Idaho, the EPA claimed that a ranch had violated the Clean Water Act by illegally discharging pollutants into a river that ran through the ranch in central Idaho. Because the ranch conducted or built, I should say, multiple crossings and was mining sand and gravel that the government claimed impeded the river's flow and impacted nearby wetlands that were also impacted by pivot irrigation on the ranch. And the trial court threw the case out.
So that's interesting. So we knew that the Sackett case was going to have a lot of inspiration, I guess, or really kind of set the bar for how we were going to go forward. I understand there was also a case, is this similar, Florida, where a judge ruled in favor of a landowner that had been sued by the EPA for polluting wetlands?
Yeah, and this one just occurred last week. In that Idaho case, the EPA, the court said, hadn't sufficiently specified in its complaint that the wetlands had a continuous surface connection with the river to be considered indistinguishable from the river, which is the Sackett test. Same thing happened last week down in Florida. A person was developing a property to be a farm, and the EPA came in and said, well, you have polluted wetlands. And the judge said there, a man-made ditch that bordered the property isn't technically connected to navigable waters of the U.S. under the Sackett standard. So the judge recommended, this was a magistrate in the Ninth Circuit, or in the Federal District Court, Southern District of Florida, that it suggested to the full court that summary judgment be granted in the landowner's favor because, again, the EPA failed to show the presence of a continuous surface connection that made it difficult to determine where the water ended and the wetland began. And that's the new standard.
Wow. So that's something that everybody needs to be looking at. Roger, right now, for landowners, what do they need to be paying attention to when dealing with cases like this?
Well, if the government comes in and tries to say that a ditch or a stream that has intermittent flow in it is a federal jurisdictional wetland, they got a good chance at challenging that and prevailing on the challenge, because ditches that have just a seasonal or intermittent water flow don't cut it anymore under the Sackett standard. And that's what these two cases reveal. You've got to know where that water ends and where the wetland begins. And that is the key standard under Sackett. And that's a big deal in terms of its application.
Great information as always. Roger, thank you so much for joining us. And yes, we are all A-OK here in the Tennessee area. Of course, east of us didn't fare as well, but I appreciate your thoughts. Thank you. Roger McEowen with the Washburn School of Law.